And I still owe you an email. I haven't forgotten.
Amber, is there any way that my pronouns can be kept on the name? Thanks.
Yeah, it must. I didn't change it this time. I think you just had it. If you signed in with your city email, it's like your panelist name. So
Got it.
I will add those.
Thank you.
That's correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Perfect.
Jamie, you even got like a little whoosh now going.
Don't make me so self-conscious while we go live.
I like it.
Might get the blow dryer out.
Mhm. All the products.
Yep.
Jamie and I go to the same hairstylist, clearly.
Hey, good evening, all.
Good evening.
Hello.
All right. All right. I hereby call this April 13th meeting of the Council of the City of Lancaster to order. Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Here.
Mr. Soto. And President Smith Waddell.
Here. All right. That brings us to the approval of the minutes for the March 23rd, 2021 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Council comments on the minutes. All right, hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Hi.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. All right, that brings us to proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. It's my understanding, Mr. Harris, that we have 3 this evening.
Yes, we do, Mr. President. And
All right, let's begin with Council Resolution number 19, 2021.
And we should have 3 people in the waiting room for that.
All right.
Amber, Jamil Thrash, and I'm not sure.
All right, we'll add Jamil and see who else.
If I believe Marielle
Marielle, okay.
should also be added. And then perhaps Jamil or Marielle could let us know who else in the waiting room should be added.
I can take this opportunity to interject that Pete did text that he will not be able to join us this evening.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Councilor Soto is excused this evening. My apologies. Mr. Thrash.
Yes.
Hey, is there anyone else? So I've added Marielle to the meeting, and then I'm seeing a T. Benson
Is
Glover.
that, okay. I will add.
Benson. But everybody else is here. We're all together at the house.
Oh, okay, great. So, Mr. Harris, would you read in the resolution, please?
Be happy to. Resolution number 19, 2021, a resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing the contributions of to the Lancaster community of Leon Bernard Buddy Glover and declaring April 13th, 2021 and April 13th, 2022 as Buddy Glover Day in the City of Lancaster.
All right, I will hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. So I think that everybody knows who Buddy Glover was and is. And if you didn't or don't, it's a great opportunity to go ahead and get yourself educated. He was really a giant in the Lancaster community, especially for Lancaster's African-American community and for all of the students in the school district of Lancaster. So I think it's really our privilege to honor him with this resolution tonight. Now, as you know, today is April 13th, and of course we wanted to recognize Buddy this evening, but we've gone ahead and taken the liberty of, in this version of the resolution, which we'll vote on in a few minutes, of going ahead and declaring this day next year to also be Buddy Glover Day in the city of Lancaster. And so, of course, encouraging everybody to do whatever they can to be as much like Buddy as you possibly can. Take care of your community, invest in young people, wear Chuck Taylors, whatever you can do to be more like Buddy, you should go ahead and do it. We have a motion and a second. I am actually going to let any family members who want to address council go ahead and do that now before we take council or other public comments.
The family, all I believe, Benson's not with us, but everybody else here is so proud and happy that the community recognizes Buddy's contributions, and that city council and the city itself has made this gesture to the family and to honor Buddy's legacy. So thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Thrash. Okay, council comments.
Okay, I'll make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I can say that he was an inspiration. I recall being in McCaskey and graduating while he was our principal. And I think he had the softest heart. As big as he was and as a giant, he was very in tune with his students and making sure that everybody was safe and having a great time and a good education.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz.
And my comment would be, what an honor to bestow upon such a wonderful human being in every sense of the word.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. Are there any comments from the public? Ms. Strazo, would you please add Mr. Dastra to the meeting?
Hello, everyone.
All right, Tony, brief and to the point.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. Basically, just thank you for honoring a worthy school district employee in this way. I think it's good to do this. And like I said, I've been celebrating today with appreciation, and I might just have to buy a pair of Chuck Taylors. Who knows? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tony. All right. This is if there are no other public comments, this is my favorite part, I think. Mr. Harris, would you please call the vote?
I will, Mr. President, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to draft this resolution.
Thank you.
Mr. Royo,
Aye.
Ms. Bakay,
Aye.
Ms. Craig,
Aye.
Ms. Diaz,
You're muted, Ms. Councilor Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina,
Aye.
and President Smith-Wato.
Aye. All right. Today is officially Buddy Glover Day in the city of Lancaster, as is this day next year. Mr. Thrash, if you're comfortable with it being sent to you, Mr. Harris will prepare a formal copy of the resolution, which will bear my and the mayor's signature to be delivered to you.
Certainly.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you to the family for taking time out. I know you're busy celebrating and being together as a family, so I hope you get to enjoy that for the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Councilor Smith.
All right. Oh man, really, it's our honor to get to recognize Buddy Glover. So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to do that, everybody. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda. I believe we have Council Resolution number 22, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President. And I'm sorry, let me bring up the current version of that. Sorry. Resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing April 2021 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and calling on Lancastrians to create a city where sexual abuse, harassment, and assault is not tolerated, where survivors are supported, and where all people have an opportunity to thrive without fear of abuse or assault. The title, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm going to do a brief explainer here, but first I want to thank Councilor Diaz for being the originator of this important resolution. And then I'm going to pass it off to Councilor Diaz, and then just letting everybody know that we do have Mandy here from the YWCA to talk about opportunities and things that people can be aware of to prevent sexual assault and support sexual assault survivors in the month of April and throughout the year. Councilor Diaz, please take it away.
It's very important for us to continue voicing our opinion, voicing and being active in making sure that if we see something that doesn't look right, especially if it's a child that doesn't have the ability to take action, is to call the police, call, child services. And if you see a victim that's out there, step in. Don't just let someone without knowing that that person could either be alive or sexually assaulted in a horrific way. Being part of the YWCA, I was a sexual assault counselor. I have seen atrocities, having to be with victims at the hospital and begging them to get a rape kit. It can burden and it can be very stressful. So I'm really happy that Mandy's here to enlighten us more of the activities that are occurring this month. And thank you so much, President.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Ms. Straza, would you please be so kind as to add Mandy to the meeting? Hey, Mandy, good evening. You're muted.
Try that again. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. So I am Mandy Billman. I'm the director of the Sexual Assault Prevention Counseling Center. And I really want to thank you all for the opportunity to recognize this month and this time. This is a time where we support the nation and work with victim survivors and highlight the bravery and the courageous nature of the clients that we work with. So for those of you who are not familiar, at the YWCA Lancaster, the Sexual Assault Prevention Counseling Center is the designated rape crisis center for Lancaster County. So we serve persons of all genders with at no cost counseling and therapy and advocacy, both at the medical providers as well as through the legal system, and support individuals through their trauma. So we not only do direct services, but we will also do prevention, education, and outreach to prevent this from continuing to happen within our community. So recognizing this in the month of April is just one step we can all take. And I want to highlight a few of the opportunities that you all have throughout the rest of this month to show support for victim survivors. We have a clothing and comfort drive for individuals that are experiencing a safe exam at the local hospitals. We have a creative opportunity for victim survivors and supporters of sexual abuse to promote their artwork or their creativity or poetry or any visual representation of their experience. And we have yard signs coming that will also be distributing throughout the neighborhoods and throughout our county as well. We have a concert coming up at the end of the month on the 24th, and as well as a Rachel's Creperie fundraiser, and different local supporters in our community and in our city have stepped up to do different fundraisers. So you can visit www.ywclancaster.org to find out additional lists and dates and times. And if there's any questions, I'd love to have them, or people can reach out. Again, I do want to stress that our services for victim survivors are at no cost. Mental health services, there's a huge gap. I think we can all recognize that. And this is one way that we can step up and support our community, help answer questions people might have on statute of limitations and what their options are. Sexual abuse and assault is about power and control, and it's our role to give that back to these individuals and support them with whatever that looks like. So thank you again, Council, for taking this opportunity, and Mayor for recognizing this month. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, President.
Counselors, while Mandy is here, do we have any pertinent questions for the work that she does? Counselor Garcia Molina.
I don't have questions necessarily, but just comments. Mandy actually used to be my supervisor at SAPC when I was a counselor there. And I can't reiterate just how important the work that they do is in our community. As she was saying, it's really about filling in the gaps a lot of the times and rallying around and providing like a holistic support, providing services not just directly to the client, but significant others to make sure that everyone really there is supported. And it was the toughest job that I've ever had, and also the most rewarding. So the fact that these are individuals who are providing these services during a pandemic, getting creative and meeting clients where they're at is super important. So I appreciate you, Mandy. Keep up the good work, and thanks for making me who I am today, partly.
Thank you, Savi. I would be remiss if I didn't share one thing I did forget to add. We do have a 24-hour hotline. So any victim, survivor, significant other, community member who's impacted by sexual abuse, harassment, and assault can reach out to our team of dedicated, amazing hotline volunteers and get that support, get referrals, get information. And then any individual in the community looking to give back or be more involved, we have an upcoming class for training volunteers coming in May. And again, that information is on our website if anyone wants to join our team. Thank you.
And the hotline number, in case anyone's like listening in, it's 717-392-7273.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions? Oh, hold on a second. Mandy, are you comfortable addressing any questions that the public attending the meeting might have?
Sure, can do.
Are there any questions from the public on the meeting? please add Mr. Dasher to the meeting.
Hello again.
As last time, Tony, go ahead.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. I don't have so much of a question, just a comment. Just thank you, Mandy, for the work you do, and a comment to all the bros listening. To tie in some like public events, and I don't know to what extent anybody's aware. It seems like YouTubers are getting in a whole lot of hot water right now. For I say YouTubers, specifically Jake Paul and David Dobrik over, I believe, rape, if not sexual assault allegations. And from what I've seen so far, it's a continuation of like these, it's not necessarily an individual, it's like a group mentality thing. So to all of your bros, like, please check yourselves before you wreck somebody else's life. This is not a game. Getting laid per se is not like, I'm getting anxious even touching on the subject, but just please, to everybody who is a young person with friends, like, please check your friends, make sure your friends are in the right, make sure people are not treating others in this way when you can. And as we all should, we're a community, so we have to protect one another. And just again, Mandy, thank you for the work you do and the services you provide.
You're welcome. And thank you for bringing up that point. What you're touching on is what we call bystander intervention. It's our role as a community, as a city, as a county to come together and interrupt the attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that contribute to sexual violence, whether or not that's you saying, hey, friend, that wasn't an okay joke, or not laughing at something, or questioning behaviors, recognizing red flags. Those are all things that we can do in our community to address sexual abuse, harassment, and assault, as well as just believing survivors, letting them know, I support you, I believe you. What do you need, and providing options. So thanks for bringing that point up.
Thank you.
All right. I'm not seeing any other public comments. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
I just went ahead and did that by acclamation, I guess. But there we are. We have the necessary votes. And so we are officially recognizing this. Mandy, thank you so much for your time and for the important work that you do. Would you mind being so kind as to give the website and the hotline number again?
Yeah, so the website that you can find all the additional information is www.ywcalancaster.org. At the top of that, you'll see the different pages and links for all of the other events that are happening throughout the month of April. And then our hotline number is 717-392-7273.
Excellent. Amber, Ms. Strazzo, I apologize. Would you be so kind as to just also throw the YWCA Lancaster link onto the YouTube caption or comments for tonight's video when you have the time?
Yes, we'll do.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mandy, so much for your time.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
I believe that brings us to Council Resolution number 18, 2021. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster supporting creation of a Lancaster County Health Department, and further requesting that the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners initiate a work group to evaluate and make recommendations related to establishing a countywide health department.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. This resolution is actually, I think, pretty straightforward, and we discussed it in the committee meeting. I believe that the residents of the city of Lancaster, and I believe that it is this council's belief that Lancaster County needs a county public health department to support all of our residents in a variety of health-related parts of their life, and that leadership in this arena over the long term saves money and saves lives. The first municipality in Lancaster County to pass such a resolution was Manheim Township, and they asked other municipalities to come on beside them, and we are proud to stand with Manheim Township, Denver, and Columbia boroughs in doing this. Well, I can't necessarily speak for all of council, but I do feel that I can, and of course we'll have a vote in just a moment. So that's what we're looking at this evening. Council comments. All right.
Just that it's overdue.
I love it. All right. Any comments from the public on the content of the resolution? Once again, Ms. Trezzo, Amber.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. Just thank you for this resolution, because like now we have a few municipalities fighting for the same subject, and this is how we put pressure on the county to actually do the things we need the county to do. And I'm glad to see this sort of cooperation. I hope we can get other municipalities on board. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tony. Other public comments? Well, before we move forward, and just so our constituents don't necessarily think we are spitting into the wind, if we vote to pass this resolution, that will be between the four municipalities, more than 110,000 Lancastrians just so far, whose representatives will have resolved directly to the county commissioners. But we already know of their support from public comments, letters to the editor, and now polling data. And the Board of Commissioners has signaled a willingness to engage in conversation. And so I hope that seeing that tens of thousands of their constituents do in fact want this will help spur them to further action. With that, Mr. Harris, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina?
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, very much. All right. That brings us to our first public comment period, reserved for those citizens who have contacted the city clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address city council. So as normal, your comments need to be civil and respectful, to the point. They need to fit within a 3-minute time limit, and you need to begin with your name and address. Mr. Harris, do we have any public comments this evening?
We do, Mr. President. We have Tony Dastra.
Oh, Tony Dastra, who's that? Ms. Strazzo?
Hello, everybody. These public comments, oh, it's screen sharing. Oh, sorry, I don't have a presentation or anything. I see a timer. I see a timer. Great.
Go ahead.
So these comments are more of a public apology, but also on the subject of what is going on in the city. I feel I'll address the easier one first, which I think is Landis Communities, because I was at a planning committee or commission meeting, and I think I was misunderstood about some of the comments I was making. So I want to say, Landis Communities, I appreciate what you're doing in our community, and I apologize for the way I was pushing. I understand it's not necessarily in your mission, the things I was asking. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the community can work with you, the community and the city can work with you to encourage younger people to surround your projects, because I think intermixing of all ages is good for all of us. But then the more difficult subject for me is to actually, this is something I think is important to do, because at the city council committee meeting, I had referenced a song and I wanted to recognize the artist Kendrick Lamar and his album To Pimp a Butterfly, because I think that music, especially Black music, and the intentions and meanings behind it is sometimes overlooked. And the messages I got from Kendrick Lamar's song impacted me, and I think have an impact on our community here, because the subject of the song, how much a dollar costs, how much does a dollar cost, is all about essentially, what do you serve higher, the financial wealth or like the wealth of human life, like the value of human life. Listen to the song yourself if you haven't ever heard it before. It does touch on religious subjects. I think that it is important for us as a community to recognize that, sure, we might live in a society where scarcity, especially scarcity of money, is something we can observe. I would say people are hoarding these resources and they are out there. But to value the financial resources of a government over the human resources of a government, which I would say is not just the people who, in fact, not even the people who work for the government. The human resources of a government are the people the government serves. They are the people that literally make up that fabric. I hope that as we go forward and make decisions as a city, we understand that yes, something might be expensive, but what might be more expensive is the damage done to somebody's life and not taking certain actions. And I will definitely have more comments on that subject later. But generally, I just wanted to say I apologize to Kendrick Lamar and all the other artists who worked on the songs for not referencing them. And I think it's important to do so in the future, and I will try to do better at that. Thank you to him for being an influence on me in that way.
Thank you, Mr. All right. I believe also, let me take a moment. Ms. Strazo, I love that, apropos of nothing. So thank you for your continued service to the council. That may have sounded sarcastic, but I'm actually entirely kidding.
No, that's fine. Figured it was more visible than me holding up note cards that I make before every meeting.
Mr. Harris, do we have any other public comments?
We do not, Mr. President.
All right, that moves us to reports requested by council. Do we have any this evening, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President, we have two. The first is the Police Bureau Progress Report delivered by Acting Chief Bay.
Thank you. Ms. Strazo? Oh, already ahead of me. Chief Bay, good evening.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Welcome to our council meeting. Take it away.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council Chair, and council members, citizens in the audience, and everyone watching online. This is my first formal update and of hopefully many more to come. But first, I'd like to begin with a reference to the 2020 Use of Force report that will be posted on the police and city website within the next couple of days. I'm not sure if the council has received that report, but if not, it will be made public here pretty soon in the next couple of days. So once you review it, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to me. During my first 127 days as interim chief, my top priority has been to conduct an alignment assessment to ensure the Bureau priorities are aligned with the mayor's and implementing a few immediate changes to build a culture for the future. In addition, I've been managing the daily operations of the Police Bureau, which includes approximately 12,000 calls in the first quarter of 2021. In today's update, I will focus on my alignment assessment, immediate Bureau changes, and future plans. As a professional law enforcement executive for more than 18 years, I'm acutely aware of the principles and fundamentals of public safety. But each community is unique, and each moment requires a specific and measured response. The quality of public safety is determined by mastering the fundamentals of policing, understanding the essential nature of a particular community, and then adapting to real-world events. Through consultation with my command staff and Bureau police officers, we've collectively developed an updated mission and vision statement and core values that appropriately reflects and supports the mayor's vision and core values of quality, teamwork, integrity, and respect. The vision statement reflects our, I like to call it our utopian state that, quite frankly, I hope we never really fully achieve it. That way, we'll always strive for continuous improvement in an attempt to get there. If we ever actually fully achieve that vision, then it'll be time to change it. The mission statement reflects the hard work it'll take to attempt to actually achieve and work toward our vision. We'll continue to be responsive to the ever-changing needs of our community through engagement, training, policy evolution, and 21st century policing edicts. We'll be innovative by using real-time data and agency collaboration to provide outstanding service and protect our community. We'll continue to be innovative in our recruitment, hiring, and promotions to ensure we get the right faces in the right places. Our core values of service, integrity, honor, courage, commitment, and duty are the tools we'll use to accomplish the mission of consistently striving to obtain our vision. Through the use of innovative hiring and promotion practices, we will ensure that the new generation of officers embody these core values. The old adage of "that's how we've always did it," it no longer applies. I, my command staff, the city administration, Mayor Sirachi, and community leaders are working to develop a common understanding of what 21st century policing should be in Lancaster. The good news is that the mayor and the Bureau are aligned, as reflected by these revised non-enforcement Bureau goals and objectives to help build community trust and legitimacy. Bicycle patrols, they're coming back. I have 10 officers receiving training in mid-May to resume our popular bike patrols. Our community asked, and we've responded. I've rebranded the Community Relations Office to Office of Community Engagement and relocated the office to the first floor lobby. Now residents can have access to our police social workers, our community engagement and recruitment sergeants, our SRO sergeant, our PAL officer, and our team officer. I'll continue community town hall forums. I recently conducted a live streaming open forum on TCP with community members to discuss police activities and use of force matters. This type of initiative and engagement will continue to be a top priority for me and the Office of Community Engagement within the Bureau. With respect to the Office of Community Engagement, I've conducted a competitive selection process using targeted questions to select a new public information officer to lead the office. Additionally, we're working with a PR professional to develop a Bureau communication strategy that aligns with the mayor's strategic goals for the Bureau and showcases our commitment to community engagement. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, you're good. Policy and oversight. We've realigned our crowd control policy to 21st century policing standards of crowd management. It's constantly, right now, it's in a rework stage with Barry to ensure that it does meet the standard of 21st policing edicts. It's something that will be reviewed, and I'll speak to that in a little bit with regard to the agency we hired to rewrite our policies. And in fact, that's my next bullet point. We've hired a professional outside agency to review and rewrite our policy manual, aligning it with 21st century policing guidelines. The process will engage the community for input and will be public facing and complete, continuing to collect and collate enforcement data and make it public facing. The Office of Community Engagement will continue with an amplified role within a community and police working group. This will ensure the Bureau's communication strategy is implemented with the community and police working group strategy, and that the goals and objectives of enhanced community engagement and building trust are accomplished. We'll utilize the block strength indicator and other data gathering systems to implement a data-driven approach to crime reduction. We'll engage in a collaborative effort with our other city offices to reduce crime. For example, research indicates that blight and other quality of life issues contribute to an increase in criminal activity. We've hired an additional police social worker to assist with improving the quality of life for our residents and to be a conduit for providing professional mental health services for those who may need it. As we pursue these goals and objectives, our challenge is to continue building trust and legitimacy with all members of the community and maintaining professional law enforcement standards and morale. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Amber is having some technical difficulties and has lost audio.
Okay.
So Amber, yes, I'm texting her now. Change the slide. Thank you. All right, sorry, Chief.
Here we go. Future goals. There we go. Back up one. Okay, so we'll talk about future goals, future plans for the police department. Accreditation. The rewrite of our policy manual is the first substantive step to becoming an accredited police department. Accreditation will increase standardization and professionalism within the Bureau, as well as legitimacy within the law enforcement community. We'll continue a dynamic community engagement and dialogue process as COVID restrictions are relaxed and society opens up. This will involve working with faith-based and community organizations to hold outdoor public safety day and other positive community engagement events. The sky's the limit in that regard. We'll look to establish a police bureau public safety dashboard to highlight all the great non-enforcement activities we're engaged in with the community. We'll report the engagement activities and events to the public in order to provide a complete picture of our bureau. Lastly, I have overhauled the oral board portion of the hiring process. Working with this city solicitor, my command staff, and we reworked the civil service regulation to weight the oral board results. Now the written portion of that test is weighted at 40% and the oral board is now weighted at 60%. Additionally, we've hired an interview process professional and a police psychologist to develop strategic questions that will reveal characteristics related to our core values that we want in our police officers. The oral boards will be composed of police civil service personnel, HR, and Bureau command staff. Additionally, the entire board will receive training prior to the oral boards to ensure we're in sync with goals, objectives, and the scoring matrix. This will allow all candidates who pass the written test an opportunity to move forward in the selection process. Next slide. In closing, the women and men of the Lancaster City Bureau of Police are committed to the fundamentals of law enforcement. We are committed to maintaining a high degree of professionalism, and we are committed to engaging in a public safety partnership with our community. I am open for questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Chief Bay, for your report and for letting us know all of the new initiatives that are being undertaken within the Lancaster City Police Department. Councilors, questions or comments for Chief Bay? Councilor Diaz.
Chief Bay, I just have one question. Do you have a record in the past 10 years, how many people of color have been let go from the agency?
I don't know, ma'am. I can get that for you.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Councilor. What do you mean by let go? Can you define that?
Let go by either been fired or asked to leave or has been dismissed.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Other council comments or questions? Councilor Craig?
I have a comment. Excited to see the bike patrol.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. So are we. And actually, I've had a couple of officers out on bikes already, just, giving it a test run, seeing if their legs are in shape. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Great weather for it, and I'm sure it'll go over big in the community.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Chief Bay, from all your conversations that you've had, what has been like the biggest need that you've heard from the community?
The biggest need that I've heard from the community is engagement, particularly from the chair that I sit in. I mean, I've heard, we would like to see the officers in the sectors be more engaging and be more approachable. But the fact that, I've been out there in the community and speaking with folks and meeting them where they are has just been, I've just received such a great response from that. And I think that's been the most requested form of engagement is from the person sitting in my chair.
And I think now more of a comment that what you've excelled in from my perspective and those I've talked to is in building that engagement piece. So I'm really glad to see that's what you're hearing from the community, but then also from our perspective to see those are the changes that you're implementing. So I really appreciate your 127 days.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate it.
Other council comments? Chief Bay, thank you. Without getting into too much conversation about the past, do want to say that we appreciate the level of engagement, transparency, and really direct and prompt communication from yourself and the police department. It's an extremely welcome change. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. President. You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Are there any, and I can see that we are, we are already 45 minutes into the meeting. I am actually going to go ahead and ask you, Chief Bay, to stay on the call, if you don't mind, while we have our presentation from Mr. Dreisbach.
Sure.
Is that, I mean, I'm making a presumption about your availability.
I'm at your disposal, sir.
Thank you. I just think that that's a good dovetail. So Ms. Strazo, would you please add Mr. Chris Dreisbach to the meeting? And I'm sorry, Mr. Harris, would you please announce the second presentation?
Yes, Mr. President. The second presentation is from Mr. Chris Dreisbach for the Gateway Mental Health Responder Assistance Program.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Dreisbach.
Hey, how are you? Is it possible to also add Ben McCoy from the room? He's joining me as well from a different room in this office.
Yep, is that, yep, Ms. Strazel's already on it.
Perfect.
Hello, thanks everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, good evening. So yeah, Chris, tell us who you are, what organization you represent, and then take it away.
Sure, I'm Chris Dreisbach. I'm the CEO of Blueprints for Addiction Recovery, and we began an initiative called Second Chance PA in 2018 and brought Lancaster City Police on board in 2019, where we offer certified recovery specialists to come out on scene to assist law enforcement anytime they encounter an individual who has substance use disorder or any related issues. We also worked with the district attorney's office to ensure that law enforcement officers did not have to charge those people with crimes if they were, deemed appropriate to be waived. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were able to expand that service to also offer assistance for mental health related issues. Thus far, we've only been able to run it as a pilot for the last 3 weekends. But Chief Bay, of course, jumped on board very quickly. We've seen our numbers from Lancaster City spike for the drug and alcohol related calls since Chief Bay came on board. And I'll let Ben talk a little bit more programmatically about it, but we are excited to be here and present this idea to you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm Ben McCoy. I'm an executive vice president at Blueprints and a co-founder of Second Chance and the Gateways Initiative. And Chris really described it, comprehensively from a high concept level. I guess what I'll speak to is some of the elements of both the substance use disorder primary and the mental health primary. The elements that make them, I think, uniquely effective is that they utilize peer services more than anything else. There have been a lot of initiatives and a lot of programs piloted or explored or proposed in different cities, counties, communities, and environments all over the country that we took data from and reviewed some of the feedback from stakeholders. But what we found to consistently be more and more effective at actually being able to align with consumers and individuals in need and get them engaged is peer work. So we have certified recovery specialists for the primary drug and alcohol initiative, and then peer specialists, which is the Pennsylvania mental health equivalent of recovery specialists. And they're individuals with lived experience of substance use disorder, active and treatment and recovery, and the same for peer specialists with mental health disorders, significant, exclusive, or co-occurring mental health disorders. And so we've been able to effectively develop relationships, transparent, honest, engaged relationships with law enforcement. And we've been able to make significant headway in actually engaging and aligning with the individuals we encounter and get them connected to services and resources throughout the county. We really are the resource coordination. We functionally provide comprehensive resource coordination and work with a network of providers of both mental health and substance use treatment services, really all over the county, all over the region, but comprehensively all over the county, depending on people's needs. And we're confident that we can impact recidivism and increase the community health posture of Lancaster.
Fantastic, gentlemen. Was not, and I don't mean this as a criticism. Did you have more? We're used to reports. Wow. Nope. Let me take a step back. Do you have more to say, gentlemen?
I wasn't sure necessarily of what was the intention of having us come present. So we can talk about the scope of the program. We can identify. I'm sure Chris would be happy to identify some of the details of the cases we've encountered as well.
I think we would love to hear about the scope of the program and what details can be shared, of course, while maintaining confidentiality. I also see that the mayor has unmuted herself.
Yes. So thank you, President Smith-Waddell, and welcome, Chris and Ben. And I'm glad that Chief Bay is on the call as well. I think I'd like to just step back and provide a little bit of context for how this started, and to acknowledge the contributions of Chief Wiskowski and other police chiefs across the county, and how this really has come to be. So really what has happened is that Chris and his team have stepped in to provide some additional supports in an area that our department has expressed need for. And as you know, we did have a co-responding model up until the end of 2019. That position was eliminated by BHDS. And I'd like for Chris and Ben to just talk a little bit about how this came to be, and Chief Bay, if you want to chime in terms of the conversation that then you ended up having with Chief Wiskowski. What I'll say are three things. One is that this Gateway project is born from the same model of the Second Chances drug and alcohol program. It is different in terms of the services that are being provided. We are upping our numbers related to referrals to the Gateway program, and Chris can speak to that under Chief Bay's leadership. So that's on the drug and alcohol side. On the mental health side, this program started after a conversation that you all had in a parking lot, and 6 or 8 days later, you started it on a pilot. It was written about an LNP. That's when we first learned about it. Chief Bay and Chief Wiskowski have a relationship. They talked, and 2 days later, we were part of the pilot. And I think that speaks to the immediacy of the response, and the uptake, and the police department speaks to the need across the community for these types of services. And the third thing I'll just say is that this is a pilot. friends. Like this is, we're learning as we are going. And I think it would be great for Chris and Ben and even Chief Bay to share from the police department's perspective, how the pilot has gone thus far for the city of Lancaster. But this also lends itself to an ongoing conversation with county and BHDS and Chris and this program. And maybe Chris, you can speak to that a little bit. So that's my setup for the conversation. I appreciate being able to weigh in.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. So you just gave me a lot to speak about, so I'm going to try and keep it all straight in my head. It really began, as Second Chance, we're a part of the CIT training, crisis intervention training that is offered through the county to police departments. And we have a 1 hour stretch of time on the Thursday afternoon to explain the Second Chance program and how officers can use it functionally in their daily shifts. And Chief Wiskowski from West Lampeter Township joins me on those because it's often easier. It's often easier to have a chief of police standing next to you when you're talking to a group of law enforcement officers about a new program. And afterwards, Chief Wiskowski and I were standing out in the parking lot at the county training center, and he was really expounding on how frustrated he is with the mental health response in the county. And, when they're unable to reach crisis and really unable to have any 24/7 access to resources. He was really going on and on about that for an hour, over an hour. He really talked about it. And, I said, well, we've been thinking about the idea. We've been in discussion with the district attorney's office about how we can figure out a way to do this. And, I kind of thought it was another conversation and left it go. And the next morning at 7 a.m., I got a phone call on my cell phone from Chief Wiskowski, who was extremely excited about the idea of just doing this and just launching something using the infrastructure that we have and the experience that we have and the, just staff that we have. And I got real excited based on his enthusiasm. And I called Ben probably 10 minutes later. And I said, Ben, Chief Wiz is real excited about this. What can we do? What can we do to help the community? And Ben and our entire team launched out and really launched into a process of building out a program. And it took 6 to 8 days, like you said, Mayor Sirachi. We were able to put together a weekend pilot program that started 3 weeks ago, and it was written about extensively in LNP and Fox 43 and ABC 27 and WGAL, and literally all of our local media really took to the idea of offering peer support to law enforcement on scene, available, 24 hours, 3 days a week, because we just don't have enough money to do it 7 days a week yet. So I hope I addressed at least some of that, Ben. I don't know if you want to throw anything in there.
Yeah, I mean, why don't you speak to how it's gone, just to let council know. Chris was actually personally available on each of the pilot weekends we facilitated so far and personally responded to a number of calls. So why don't you speak to some of the insight we have on city calls and just some of the cases we encounter, I guess, to give insight into what functionally we provide.
Well, the best city example we had was an individual on, not sure what block exactly of West Orange Street, but he had barricaded himself in a room in his house with a knife and was threatening suicide or possibly more. I'm not sure. That one I wasn't personally on scene for, but one of our responders, Ed, did go on scene within 10 minutes, and he was able to work with Lancaster City Police Department to negotiate that individual to get rid of the knife and come out and receive help. Shortly after that happened, I guess it was a couple-hour process, I started to receive phone calls on my personal cell phone from several Lancaster City police officers thanking me for doing this program and thanking me for having Ed there, because if Ed wasn't there, they're not sure if it would have went as well as it did. And that alone spoke volumes to me, to the value of the program that we can bring to the city. Another one that I was personally involved in wasn't specifically in the city, but on the first night that we launched this pilot, we were doing a ride along in West Lampeter Township, and we got a call to an individual who was standing on the bridge, and we were able to be there within a minute and a half And thankfully, we were able to talk that individual off of the bridge. He was a city resident who had walked all the way down to the bridge, whose name I do not remember. And he was looking to end his life that night. And thankfully, we were able to bring him back and get him connected to the services that he needed. So just those two cases alone told me that, we certainly weren't wasting our time bringing this service to the area. And I couldn't have been more excited after that first night and helping that guy off the bridge.
We've had too, I don't think I'm cutting you off, but I just want to jump in and speak also to during the pilot weekends, we were able to really identify where our strengths were in the scope of the initiative and where our weaknesses were, which facilitated a lot of really focused and productive communications, mainly with with Judy, Julie, and Glenn at BHDS and Crisis. And our concern, their concern, we wanted to make sure there wasn't, redundant or duplicate work being done, that there was adequate communication and collaboration between, the existing infrastructure and the stakeholders, the behavioral health stakeholders in that exist throughout the county. And what was it that what service gaps is Gateways trying to close? And it is the accessibility and responsiveness of peer support at every hour of the day and night, which is, BHDS expressed, they've had a number of conversations about wanting to be able to get into peer work, but the process is a little bit more cumbersome and difficult to try and effectively develop job descriptions for roles like that. And so I think just this past weekend was when we had made more significant progress in ironing out a collaborative process between ourselves and mainly BHDS, and crossing over of release of information and being able to seamlessly integrate the individuals we encounter into the existing infrastructure that Lancaster's already got. And which we're more excited than we've ever been at looking at this as a complete picture of reducing barriers, no longer kind of siloing out drug and alcohol, mental health, and other behavioral issues into these kind of sometimes excessively bureaucratic structures that exist, and individuals get lost in and out and through systems that aren't responsive enough, individualized enough, or dynamic enough. So I think what we're moving towards is being able to have a single access point of contact for law enforcement exclusively as a gateway to transform into a gateway into the health system, but to have a single point of contact where an individual with any behavioral health issue manifesting along the spectrum from, emerging substance use disorder to serious mental health condition, and from that single point of contact, we can triage them through either the existing substance use or mental health or co-occurring infrastructure in and around the county, which is just exciting. There's not a lot of areas that have anything quite as dynamic and at this point, at least, immediate in how reactionary it is to, incident by incident. There's a lot of, call, but now it's after 5 p.m. and here's a sheet of paper with a new policy statement, but there's very few areas that have real direct access to both peer work and expertise to get individuals into adequate services within minutes or hours rather than days.
And I think it's important to add and important to note that the program was built to ensure that it keeps law enforcement on the street and focused on the things that they need to be focused on as law enforcement, so that they have a one phone call, don't have to stay, as long on scene. And just one of those things that we really like to take very seriously is making sure that if there's a mental health or substance use issue, it's handled by the right person at the right time.
Chris, Ben, gentlemen, wow. I think we have to be explicit in talking about what we're talking about. And I don't think I'm overstating when I say that this pilot has already saved the lives of more than one city resident. And I don't think as their elected representatives, we can thank you enough for that. As somebody who has struggled with mental health themselves in my life, I can also speak to I can also speak to the value of having somebody who is trained to engage with people on that level immediately and readily present from a personal perspective. That's been very valuable in my own life. And I feel like I have an obligation to want for everybody else what I want for myself, and to want for every person in the county what I want for residents of Lancaster City. And not intending to cast any aspersions or shade, such as it is, a thing that city residents and residents outside of the county have asked me about is, where is behavioral health, where is crisis intervention, where are the folks who are trained to engage people who have mental health needs, who have substance addiction needs. And so first and foremost, gentlemen, thank you for stepping into that gap on behalf of council and indeed on behalf of the city of Lancaster. Can I ask, what kind of support are you getting, or are you looking to get, as you move this pilot forward, from county agencies, from whomever, if that's not too technical a question to ask?
I mean, we accept support from everybody, obviously. We've gotten, I think, 16 total police departments, total municipalities here in the county on board very rapidly. It took us 2 years to get 21 on board for Second Chance in relation to substance use disorder. It took us about 1 week to get 16 on board for mental health. So I think the response has been pretty tremendous. I mean, the conversations that we've had, the support that we've had from law enforcement, Chief Bay, I know you haven't said anything since we've been taking up all the time, but the support from you and your department has been fabulous. Every one of the officers that we've worked with so far on the pilot have literally been unbelievably compassionate and caring. And, we couldn't be happier with the results so far.
And I'll just say, we have, if you can tell, we put this pilot together rapidly. We are both, personally, deeply, involved as stakeholders and program overseers. And if you can tell, we have a pretty vibrant energy and an enthusiasm for scaling this and adapting this to whatever best serves and can be tailored to whatever municipality or environment we're talking about. So although we have goals, and we have high level goals about impacting incidents of, impacting and reducing the number of tragedies in our community, and impacting the rate of individuals who are connected to adequate care, which ultimately, impacts the rate of recoveries and the quality of life from an individual, and ultimately a community, a family and community level. Those are our higher goals. And technically, we need the support of law enforcement. And that's what Chris was just speaking to, is that we have it. More every time we meet with another police department, what we get consistently is feedback that officers want to know who to call and what to do. And they don't want to be on the hook to act outside of their depth. And what they're desperate for has historically been access to professionals they can trust, that they can truly transition care, because that's really what we're talking about, over to. And our goal is to help position law enforcement as community health stakeholders as much as we are, and increase trust and connection to the services and resources that exist throughout our county. I mean, our goal is Lancaster County, because that's our hometown, it's our backyard, it's where our organization thrives and grows, and all these new initiatives we explore are ultimately implemented. And I want to thank council for giving us the opportunity to speak to this. Also encourage anybody on this call to reach out to us directly. I'm sure Chris doesn't mind that I say that. Also, anybody who's watching, any member of the community, any member of Lancaster, reach out to us at, I don't know what's the best way to give our contact information, but reach out to us and ask us anything you want about the program.
Is there, thank you, Ben. Is there a website or a Facebook address that people should go looking for?
Gateways.secondchancepa.com is the landing page for the Gateways initiative. And then, of course, secondchancepa.com is the site for the DNA-focused Second Chance PA. And call, I'm forgetting off the top of my head, call 717-361-1660, which is the main number for Blueprints for Addiction Recovery for kind of general information and inquiries. The other line is actually for officers to call for direct on-scene response, and that's the main number we actually want to communicate to law enforcement. But yeah, that's basically it. And you can read, that's our main number, and you can ask for me or Chris by name. And all of our email addresses are first initial, last name at blueprintsrecovery.com.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we go on, I believe Chief Bay has a comment.
Yes, sir. I just want to thank Chris and Ben for the fantastic work that you've done. And on behalf of Lancaster City Bureau of Police, I want to extend that gratitude to you personally here tonight. I'm not going to belabor all the nuances of how we got hooked up, but let's just say my excellent and friendship with Chief Wiz, my longtime friend, put us together, and that was the best thing ever for our city and for our residents. This is a service that our community needs. It's a service that our police department needs to partner with in order to continue to provide excellent service to our community. My only question for you is, what type of support do you need to bring your services full-time to our city as opposed to just a pilot program?
Well, I think that's a pretty good and broad question. I think we really
give me the Reader's Digest.
Reader's Digest is we need to figure out how to make it financially sustainable. Currently, we are just eating the cost of doing this because we believe in it wholeheartedly, and we are passionate about our community, and we love our community, and we love our law enforcement, and we love helping people. And Ben and I are both very passionate. All of the people who've been working in the program are extremely passionate about bringing resources to the community that they need. And, unfortunately, we don't have endless resources. I know nobody in the world, except for maybe Jeff Bezos, has endless resources. But that's essentially what we're going to end up needing, is a little bit of help on that end to be able to run full-time 24/7, 365, and hopefully for the rest of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that I appreciate that this is an ongoing conversation about the evolution of the ways in which we are partnering to provide mental health and drug and alcohol services to our residents in a comprehensive way, recognizing that this is not a co-responder model, and that is still a conversation that's on the table, as well as this effort, which is on scene, responding, and that kind of warm handoff that's happening between our officers and competent staff who are able to manage the continuation of whatever may be happening. These are hour-long interventions in some cases. We're talking some cases 5 to 7 hours potentially. And then the third way that we have staffing capacity is through our social workers. But I want to make clear that our social workers and what they do is very important work, and that's like the follow-on work and also the work to prevent additional calls to police department. But each of these things is unique, and strategies related to each of these levels of services are important. And I feel really good that we're adding this level, and also recognizing that the co-responder conversation is to be continued.
Thank you. Well, gentlemen, again, you have my most sincere thanks. And we do have to find a way. I hope I'm not being so bold to say, or too bold to say, that we have to find a way to make this the norm for our entire community. And I think that, to my colleagues here and to my colleagues at the county level, the funds exist, I believe, to invest in a program that is, probably not just saving funds in the long term, but saving lives. And these are the things that we, as individual municipalities and as the county as a whole, need to be focusing on and investing in. But I will put my soapbox away at this moment and open it up to any other counselors who wish to comment. Councilor Garcia Molina, did you?
President, of course. So I'm extremely grateful for the work that you two do. I work for Compass Smart, so I know wholeheartedly the amount of work that went into blueprints, and just I'm imagining the capacity of this program and what it could exist and become. So I'm really thankful and proud of the work that you do. I guess what I'm trying to understand a little bit better is I would think that this is crisis, right? Like if this situation would arise, I call crisis. That's what I've been trained to do. So from your perspective, why is that need still existing? Like, why are you the ones filling in the gap? And I guess what further upsets me is that you're eating the cost. So,
well, I can answer that on a somewhat of a level, at least. I've never been a law enforcement officer in my entire life, in full disclosure, nor will I ever be because I have a criminal record. And just through the Second Chance PA initiative, we've dealt with law enforcement in the county repeatedly since December 2018. And oftentimes the frustration is that when you give a call into the county crisis, they are not responsive in real time. And that is really where the frustration was born from by law enforcement that propelled us to push this initiative so far. Now, I think on behalf of County Crisis, they have definitely responded well to this almost, I guess you could say, indictment, because we just kind of launched this program because there was a need. And they have been very responsive in seeing what they can do to assist us and what we can do to assist them to strengthen the community and strengthen the bond between everyone. So nothing has happened just yet in regards to that, but everybody has been very responsive, and the gap definitely existed. It definitely existed, and thankfully, on the weekends only, we've been able to close it entirely. So.
I want to say too, to speak a little bit more technically, as you know, being at Compass Mart, BHDS can address individuals with serious mental health conditions, and there are a lot of cases that don't technically rise to that level of diagnosis. And so a lot of police chiefs have also expressed, frustration with, if it's not a situation that requires voluntary or involuntary commitment to psychiatric services, it is literally just not within the scope of Crisis and BHDS's work to adequately supply guidance, services, and certainly not peer support to those cases and individuals. Like, obviously cases that are, critical enough there's still a lot of direct communication with Crisis just to make sure that, this individual is probably already involved in the infrastructure in the county, that all of the stakeholders and kind of case touch points are aware, but they're still often transported to LGH and to the emergency department. And then we would continue to supply peer work where BHDS supplies mental health case management and further assessment to kind of triage out additional needs. But I think the existing gap is that peer work is not done by BHDS or Crisis. They don't have peers, at least that can function in this capacity, and certainly that certainly can't respond on scene. And that is, again, to one of my earlier points, I think what has made it so effective is, one, we align personally and individually and invest time in getting relationships with law enforcement, because a lot of what Crisis has said is, we've tried to, we can't seem to get law enforcement to want to call us. And I don't know any other way to say this other than go spend actual time with law enforcement, let them get to know who you are, that you can demonstrate these commitments to these goals, and that when they make a call to that number, somebody answers, and within 30 minutes, somebody's on scene with them. And only after you show up and pull that off 3 or 4 times in a row is this officer going to just now commit to and trust that this phone number is a real resource. So yeah, it's the scope of diagnoses. One of the things that Gateways provides is, even when we encounter a case, and I'm sorry, I over-explain every answer, but one of the things that Gateways provides is, when we encounter a single case, it doesn't matter if they have a serious mental health condition or any diagnosis or incident or situation or lack of community support, all the way down to the least restrictive or intensive level of therapeutic need. We can identify their needs and connect them to either the resources that already exist in the county or direct care providers that we have a network of, depending on what that need is. So there really is no limit on the scope of need that we can encounter and respond to, especially working with peers, because the real magic of that is they take that incident, that critical situation where there are flashing lights, law enforcement, there is, high drama, and reduce it to a human conversation of accessibility. They're not being talked at or to or about, but shared with. And we make huge strides in getting buy-in with those individuals so that when we make a follow-up call, they want to pick up the phone.
Yeah, I really appreciate your answer. And I think too, I don't want to project anything onto your pilot program, but this program becomes so important though, because you're filling in all these gaps, and you just gave all the great reasons as to why this program works and why it's being embraced. For the sustainability of it, then, what it seems like the financial support is really the biggest factor, right? So if we want to keep this partnership,
without a doubt. I mean, we could build a team without question, and we could scale the program and implement the program with confidence. Yeah, it's financial sustainability.
And it's very important to mention that we want to make sure that it is sustainable and equitable for everyone. We don't ever want to have a question of, do you have resources? Do you have insurance? Do you have money? Do you have this? We just want this to be available if you are a human being, and we want to help. So that's what's super important to us. And I don't think any level of mental health need is more important or less important than another one, because when you're the individual struggling, it's the most important thing to you at the time. And we want to treat it exactly that way and make sure that everybody has access to this life-saving program.
And everyone having access means that this really does need to be countywide, just because of the nature of the calls that come in. And there shouldn't be a situation where if you live 100 yards on the opposite side of the street, you have access to one thing and not the other.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the reasons it's hard to answer kind of some of those pointed questions about what is required for this program to be sustainable. If we're in a meeting right now really talking about the city, we're also going to be in a meeting 4 days from now talking about the county, and then somebody's going to ask a question about the Commonwealth. And so we find ourselves having this conversation at kind of various levels of intensity all the time. We're having a conversation with District Attorney Heather Adams, and then we're having a conversation here tonight. So ultimately, I also feel that the funds exist. We've explored things like supplementing and offsetting costs through working with managed care organizations, whether or not there are grant funding opportunities available. There aren't any that are directly applicable right now, from the state level with federal money that's available. And so we're just still having those conversations. I think that's a lot of what our subsequent conversations with BHDS are going to be about more than anything else, because we've already pretty much ironed out procedurally how we can work together. So now it's about whether or not we really are augmenting a dimension of augmenting services that some people might have assumed they were already providing. I don't know any other way to say it.
I'm just extremely grateful for all the work that you do. And I hope that as you fill in these gaps for county services, that you're also seeing a share of that pie of funds. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the enthusiastic engagement and support here.
All right. Chris, Ben, John, thank you very much for the work that you do for our community and for making these presentations tonight. I'm sure we'll be eager to hear more soon and find out how we can get engaged. Councilor Garcia Molina, Chris and Ben, is the chair of our Public Safety Committee. So he's the council point person for things just such as this. So if you need to make a connection to council, please feel free to use him as a resource. Council, we are pushing 8 o'clock. So with your consent, I will move on to the reports of council committees. Is that okay?
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Worth the time. Absolutely. And not to put you back on the spot, Councilor Garcia Molina, but we're going to begin with the Public Safety Committee for the reports of council committee meetings held on April 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Public Safety Committee meeting did take place. It was one agenda item. It'll be for first reading, which is Bill number 9, 2021, regarding a traffic commission ordinance amendment. It's pretty straightforward. It's just about who all is participating and if there can be designated individuals for it. I believe Mayor will speak to it later on. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Garcia Molina. The next is the Public Works Committee. I'll be reporting for Councilor Soto. The Public Works Committee did meet and discussed Administration Bill number 4, 2021, addressing use of personal delivery devices. These are the primarily sidewalk, possibly street-bound, boxy-looking wheeled robots. Ostensibly a package is put into them, and they do deliveries in that way, and giving ourselves the capacity to regulate these as a community, because the public right-of-way, making sure that we manage that and preserve it for all residents is important. And this ordinance would prohibit use of these devices unless that use is approved by the city's Department of Public Works. And we'll be seeing that in the ordinances for first reading a little later on. So that is the report from the Public Works Committee. Economic Development, Councilor Arroyo.
Mr. President, yes, we did meet last time to discuss one bill, Administration Bill number 8, 2021. This was approving the renewal plan for the Downtown Investment District Authority, which we'll also discuss later today. It's renewing the, I believe, 2-year plan, if I'm not mistaken, that expires on April 30th. So we'll be discussing more later today. And that is, yep.
Oh, yep. Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Councilor Bakay, Finance.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee met on April 5th at our committee meeting. There were 2 items on our agenda, Bill number 10 of 2021, which would authorize the refinancing of a 2019 bank note with a new bond issue, and Bill number 11, 2021, which would authorize the same refinancing but with another bank note. Mr. Hopkins reviewed the reasons this refinance was needed, which included reduced state grant funding and additional contingency funds for the East King Street Fire Station construction. Projected financing will allow the city to refinance the 2019 note and take additional cash out for these purposes without adding any additional cost or time on the debt service due to favorable rates. Bank proposals are due on the 19th of this month, and at that time, Mr. Hopkins will know if the bank note or the bond issue will be the best option. This evening, both of these bills are going to be on our agenda for a first reading, and depending on the outcome of those proposals, one of these bills will be on the agenda for our April 27th meeting for a final vote. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Councilor Bakay. Community Planning, Councilor Craig.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. I apologize. Yes, Community Planning did meet on April 5th. We had 3 items on the agenda, one of which, Resolution 22, Director Delph gave a presentation on Community Development Block Grant 5-year consolidated plan and annual plan, which will not come up tonight. We'll be addressing that probably on the 27th at council meeting. The other 2 were amending sewer control plans for Queen Street project and Landis on King, which will both come up in our legislative agenda this evening.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. And finally, Personnel, Councilor Diaz.
Yes, President Wardell. The Personnel Committee met April 5th and reviewed the following nominations. Michaela Alwyn to the Planning Commission as the alternate member for the term of April 13th, 2021 to December 31st, 2025. David Bowen to be the Planning Commission as an alternate as well for the term of April 13, 2021 to December 25th, 2025. Maxine R. Cook to the Planning Commission as a regular member for the term of April 13th, 2021 to December 31st, 2024. Miriam Ortega Brown to the Planning Commission as a regular member for the term for May 19, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. And Nicole Sulfur to the Planning Commission as an alternate member for a term from April 13, 2021 to December 31st, 2025. And I would like to make this motion for the nominations to be approved as a whole.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the nominations. Council comments on these? Okay. Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Hearing none, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, you're muted.
Sorry. Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell?
Aye.
And that concludes personnel.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. All right, everyone. Finally, that brings us to our legislative agenda. We'll begin with ordinances for first reading, ordinances for first reading, ordinances for first reading, with Administration Bill number 4, 2021.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, prohibiting the use of personal delivery devices on roadways, shoulders, or berms of roadways, or pedestrian areas under the jurisdiction of the City of Lancaster in accordance with the Pennsylvania Act 106 of 2020, without consent of the Director of Public Works, establishing definitions, providing for that prohibition to only become effective after a meeting with the authorized entity authorized entity with representatives of the Department of Public Works, and a finding by the department that use of the proposed device by the authorized agency would constitute a hazard, authorizing the promulgation of policies and procedures by the Director of Public Works, establishing penalties for the violation of the ordinance, providing for the severability of the ordinance, providing that the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law. The title, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Council comments from the public. Okay. Just checking. Okay. Administration Bill number, oh, no. Whoa, hold on a second. Sorry. Councilor Soto's not here. I lost track of myself. Director Campbell, would you like to provide a little more context on this?
Yes, if you don't mind. I'll be as brief as practical. This is a law that has come into effect, a state law that has come into effect as of January of this year, that these personal delivery devices be available to be used throughout the state of Pennsylvania in a variety of different ways. But there are provisions by which the municipality can review and either approve or not approve their use in certain circumstances. These personal delivery devices are similar to motorized boxes, if you will, and they may be very appropriate on college campuses, on medical campuses, et cetera, where it's on private property, et cetera, but the law allows them to be utilized in the public right of way. The provisions do allow for the municipality to say that it is not appropriate, it might be unsafe, or it might be inconvenient for whatever reason for such devices to be in our public right of way. And it provides that the entity that wants to use a PDD, which is the term of art it goes by, personal delivery device, has to request permission from PennDOT first, and PennDOT loops in the municipality, who then reviews the proposed use by that entity. In our case, the city of Lancaster has a huge number of very, very small streets, very small sidewalks, lots of areas where it would not be appropriate nor safe for these devices to be used. So we have the ability to say that they would not be used in certain circumstances, on certain streets, on certain sidewalks, certain roadways, or in certain instances where we deem that it would be unsafe. If by chance they do get approved, authorized, then that authorization allows them to submit to the city, in essence, city council, that this is the use to which they wish to put the personal delivery device, and to be able to present to the public how they're going to educate the public on how that device will be used, understood, seen, and perceived by the public. So there are several steps along the way. What we have done is put together this set of regulations, or this proposal, this bill, so that we do in fact exercise our full rights to review and, if necessary, cancel or veto a particular proposal to use these PDDs. If it is appropriate, we would accept it, but we would have the opportunity to see exactly what they're proposing. You're muted.
I'll get this one day. One day I'll figure it out. Thank you, Director Campbell. Post that explanation, counselors, another pass at comments or questions?
I just have a quick question. This is going to be brought up individually per organization. So each person that, let's say, for example, I'm FedEx, I'm going to come over and see if this could be approved for my organization. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that that's what I'm hearing, so like that the public understands that it's not as a whole.
That is correct. It is each application may be for a set of purposes. So FedEx might apply saying that we are going to be using these devices to deliver certain kinds of packages to the university and to hospitals. And here are the routes we plan to use. And then that would trigger going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Similarly, Franklin Marshall might make an application. They might enter into a contract with a PDD entity and want to use some of the public right-of-way as well, and they would make such an application. Similarly, a food delivery service might want to do that, and they would make a separate application as well. Every instance, every application of how they want to use a particular PDD or particular type of PDD will be its own separate application and will have to be reviewed separately. Not radically differently than any restaurant wanted to apply for permitting to have sidewalk dining over the last year. It's each application.
Okay. And then I have a question regarding safety. It might be off the wall. If anybody would tamper with any of these devices and may have used some type of bomb or anything of that source, how do we know that these things are safe and secure? I guess that isn't off the wall because anything can happen at any given time, but I'm just curious to know.
These are very, very fair questions, and for better or for worse, this is still early in the life of this type of permission and this type of technology. It has been provided or allowed to happen at the state level, and we are exercising our right to be able to review it. There are a couple of precautions along the way. The first 90 to 120 days of an authorized use, meaning after they've gone through getting PennDOT approval, municipal approval, and then present to council that this is what they want to do and how they want to do it. The first 90 to 120 days, each personal delivery device actually gets accompanied by a, if you will, a human keeper, someone who is following it and watching it on its path, seeing what the obstacles are, seeing how it maneuvers on ADA curb cuts and all those kinds of things. And then after that period, they may be not accompanied, but somehow electronically monitored. So there are 2 or 3 steps along the way. That doesn't answer your specific question. One has potentially the risk that even currently FedEx, unless it's X-rayed, might be transporting things that might be dangerous to people as well. But this is still an early phase of an evolving technology.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
You're very welcome.
All right. Barring any other council comments, oh, here we go. Please add Mr. Dasher to the meeting. Tony, you know the rules.
I think so. Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. Again, I think I said this at the last meeting. I appreciate the forward thought in this. As I was sitting here listening, this isn't so much something maybe even council can do, but this is potentially something somebody in the business community might hear and decide to do something about. I think about how a company like DoorDash or Grubhub could essentially automate and remove what people have been using in COVID as like job opportunity, ability to get extra revenues for themselves. It would be very novel and interesting in a city with such a diverse and strong restaurant culture as ours. If we could find, if not the city being a partner in basically stepping into this early technology and acknowledging how it might be able to bring, or I shouldn't even say bring revenues, but be self-sustaining and prevent excess losses to the businesses in the city that would then leave the void and or leave us go into the void, which is like the national flow of money and revenues and just currency. It would be interesting to see how the city can help support coalitions of people with services like restaurant services, and seeing if we can help them facilitate deliveries using this technology to prevent them from going to a service like Grubhub or DoorDash that takes a cut and kind of double does us in, because the consumer is paying that additional fee on top, and that's going into the void, but also the restaurants paying those fees as well, and those are city resources too. Those go into this company's structure and don't necessarily come back to the community. So I'm looking forward to this resolution, and I think that we can have a lot of cool ideas based around this technology that do more to help our community and prevent the damage that automation might do to our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra. All right. Any other public comments? Okay. Barring none, or hearing none rather, I will move us to Administration Bill number 8, 2021. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, approving the plan of administrative services of the Lancaster Downtown Investment District Authority, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'll hear a motion.
Nope,
no, I won't. No, I won't. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is to renew a plan set to expire on April 30th. The proposed 2-year plan does not include any changes in district boundaries, assessment rates, or services. And the DID board does not wish to make changes until the pandemic has ended and the economic impacts are known. That is the kind of gist of the plan. I know Mr. Achille is in the waiting room if he wants to add a little bit more.
Ms. Strazo?
Yes, good evening, Council. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Aurora. Yeah, the DID has looked at this very carefully. We will not be making any changes to our plan at all till we fully know what the impact of COVID will have on our property owners. So no changes in service. We're still going to provide our clean and safe teams, and we will not be making any changes to the assessment rates.
Thank you. That is all, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Achel. Stick around for a second. Councilors, I know we discussed this in committee a little bit, but chance for another bite at the apple if you need it for any reason. Comments or questions? Okay. Any public comments on the new DID plan itself, or on the DID plan as it stands, rather? Okay. Mr. Achel, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. If anybody does want to read the plan, it is on our website. So thank you again.
All right. That brings us to Bill number 9, 2021. Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, amending Chapter 22 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, boards, commissions, etc., Article 7, Traffic Commission, Section 2217, membership, duties, and implementation to clarify that the mayor's designee may be somebody already on Traffic Commission, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilor Garcia Molina.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is pretty straightforward. It basically just eliminates the requirement that mayor has to serve as a member and allows her to designate one of her staff members that already is on the commission to also serve as her designee. The amendment would also allow for the appointment of a third member of the public to join as a commission member. I know that you, Mayor, spoke to this briefly at the committee meeting. Is there anything else that I missed that you want to add? No, that would be it, Mr. President.
Thank you. Council comments. From the public. Ms. Strazo?
Tony Dastra, 700. Oh, Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. Buying a little extra time here, it looks like. I said at the last committee meeting, like I said before, actually, I was a little surprised to hear about this. I was of the impression at first that the mayor should be at these meetings. I understand the need, though, to designate time to other matters in the city. But I figure since I'm here and I'm a very outspoken individual, I would also put it to you guys, since this is opening up another position for a member of the public to join Traffic Commission, I would love to make the time and serve on Traffic Commission. I think about traffic a lot, and it would be an honor to serve the city in that way if you would allow me to. I'm not sure who would make all the calls in that, but I'm just putting it out there that I would love the opportunity to serve on Traffic Commission, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra. Are there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, I will move us to Administration Bill number 10, 2021. Actually, as I'm doing that, Mr. Harris, how to take bills 10 and 11?
We have to do the individual first readings.
Okie doke, go for it.
An ordinance authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral debt of the city of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, by the issuance of principal amount general obligation bonds, series of 2021, issued for the purpose of providing funds for the current refunding of the City of Lancaster's general obligation note, series of 2019, providing funds for the cost of construction of fire stations or other capital projects as determined by the city, and paying the costs of issuing and insuring the bonds, determining to sell the series of 2021 bonds at a private sale by invitation, approving the form of the series of 2021 bonds, fixing the number, date, interest, and maturities of the 2021 bonds, making a covenant for the payment of the debt service on the 2021 bonds, pledging the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city in support of such bonds, providing for the filing of required documents, providing for the appointment of a sinking fund depository for the 2021 bonds, and authorizing execution, sale, and delivery thereof, and other necessary action. The title.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilor Bakay.
Thank you very much. So yeah, this bill is linked to bill number 11, but as we do need to do the first readings, this one has to do with the possible refinancing of the 2019 note with the bond issue. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Hopkins if he has any additional information from what he shared in our committee meeting or new information on rates, for instance.
No, I don't have any other additional information. You did a great job with the synopsis earlier with your Finance Committee report. Just to note again that what we're looking to do with either Bill number 10 or Bill number 11 is because of reduced interest rates and basically matching up the debt service schedule of the 2019 note to be able to gain an additional million to basically $1 million to $1.2 million in new dollars financed through that bond issue or bank note that will be invested into the fire station projects. Our other financing obviously is coming from $2 million in total of redevelopment capital assistance grants from the state, and also dollars that were originally for the Public Works Operations Center that we would come back to City Council for reauthorization to apply to this project. That's sort of the last piece of the financing of the project, and we'd wait until we know what we can gain out of this refinancing before we come back to Council for reauthorization to move those op center dollars over to this project.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, Council President, on this one.
Thank you, Councilor Bakay. Council comments. From the public? Ms. Strazo.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. I apologize. Is this the financing related to the firehouse?
Councilor Bakay, you can.
Yes, this is to approve a refinancing of a 2019 note with this particular item is a bond issue, and the end result would be financing for the East King Street station.
Okay. Thank you. Just a question to clarify, I guess, questions I had last week. So I know that we're moving forward with the project, and I know it's my understanding that the building that Wacker Brewing was occupied is no longer there, I believe. Was Wacker Brewing ever paid though? Like, is it settled, or is there still a discussion happening? I didn't get like 100% clarity on that. I know that in 2019, City Council voted, I think we approved using eminent domain essentially as a leverage tool. And I just wanted to check, like, I just wanted to make sure 100%, like, has Wacker Brewing been paid for those discussions, or what was the end result of the eminent domain aspects of that conversation? I'm definitely confused and I'm seeking clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra.
Council President, I can't offer clarity to that question, but I do just want to comment that that was involving the West King Street station and not the East King Street station, which is what this particular financing piece has to do with.
I see. Mr. Hopkins, yes?
Sure. I'll just add one bit of clarity that following council's action in late 2019, we did make a just compensation payment to Wacker Brewing of $22,000. That was, and that is the last action that's been taken on that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Sure.
Councilor Baker, did you have anything else?
No.
All right. I will then move us to Administration Bill number 11, 2021. Mr. Harris?
An ordinance authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral debt of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, by the issuance of principal amount of general obligation note, series of 2021, issued for the purpose of providing funds for the current refunding of the City of Lancaster's general obligation note, series of 2019, providing funds for the cost of construction of fire stations or other capital projects as determined by the city, and paying the costs of issuing the note, determining to sell the series of 2021 note at a private sale by invitation, approving the form of the series of 2021 note, fixing the date, interest, and maturity of the 2021 note, making a covenant for the payment of the debt service of the 2021 note, pledging the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city in support of such note, providing for the filing of required documents, providing for the appointment of a sinking fund depository for the 2021 note, and authorizing execution, sale, and delivery thereof, and other necessary action.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilor Baker?
So this is related to bill number 10. In this option, this would be a refinance of the 2019 note with another bank note. I'll just also note that in the previous presentation at committee, Mr. Hopkins noted that the current note for 2019 has a blended rate. So there's a fixed and I've lost for
variable.
Variable. Thank you. Banking words gone. A fixed and variable rate is blended. So the interest rate's at 3.55%. We believe that we could do better and that we're currently in the process of taking proposals for new banknotes. Anything else to add to that one, Mr. Hopkins?
Just to add that though Mr. Harris had to read two long titles of bills, the purpose of having two separate bills is so that when we eventually move forward with either the bond issue or the note, well, this isn't the main purpose, it's an auxiliary benefit. The motion to amend the ordinance at the second council meeting in April will be significantly shorter by having two separate ordinances like this.
And for that, I am grateful.
Mr. Hopkins, a clarifying question, or really perhaps this is one for Mr. Harris. What then, say we choose to move forward with Bill 11, what then happens to Bill 10 from a procedural standpoint? Does it die on the table, evaporate into thin air?
It dies on the table.
Yes.
Excellent.
Right. You take action on the one that we want to move forward with, and the other one lies on the table, and the ordinance number or bill number, I guess, just doesn't get used.
Okay.
Yeah. Legislative purgatory.
Council comments. Okay. From the public. Okay, yep. was going to be my question. Was that hand still up? All right. Well, since that is an ordinance for first reading, I believe that brings us to the resolutions portion of our legislative agenda. We'll begin with Administration Resolution number 20, 2021. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got motions and seconds. Love that. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Question though, before I start. Should we do these individually, Resolution 20 and 21, since they are so, I mean, they're different projects, but they're very closely related?
We should do them individually.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Municipalities are required to develop and implement comprehensive official plans that address sewage disposal needs now and in the future. When a new land development project is proposed, municipalities are required to revise their official plan. As of November 2019, the PA Department of Environmental Protection has been more restrictive about issuing exemptions due to the city's challenges with combined sewer overflows into the Conestoga River. These modules are often submitted at early planning stages for development. That is all I have. I don't know if Douglas is here and he might want to add something to that.
Yep, I just added him.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, councilors. This is Douglas. I don't have anything to add. Councilor Craig, I think you got everything accurate. I'm here to answer any questions that anyone might have, though.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council?
If I could just clarify, Councilor Craig, that this is the Burger Rental Communities project at Queen and Chestnut. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Questions from council? No? Questions from the public? I don't see any.
Okay.
Going twice. Go on.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Craig. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. Thank you all. Next, we have Administration Resolution number 21, 2021. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig, you can take this one as well.
Thank you so much, Council President. Same explanation as the last one, except for the fact that this plan is for Landis on King. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, Douglas?
I'll just add that this is a project that is actually in the land development process right now and is expected to go before the Planning Commission and maybe the beginning of May. The last project is much earlier in the process. So just wanted to make that clarification. Otherwise, nothing else to add.
Thank you so much. Questions from council?
I do have a question, Counselor Craig. In regards to the module, would this be also helping control some of the overflow into the Susquehanna?
I believe so. Douglas, is that correct?
I'm happy to help answer that question, Counselor. So the sewage capacity that we approve is indeed a separate process from the consent decree that we have. According to Act 537, the Sewage Planning Act, there are very specific conditions under which we can deny sewer capacity. And we've had to consult our city solicitor on this matter recently regarding projects that are actually outside the city boundaries that do contribute to our sewer flows and to our treatment plant. We cannot actually deny sewer capacity based on the consent decree. There could be other situations that might warrant something like that, but the stormwater ordinance deals with the disturbance of impervious area or the increase of impervious area that generates stormwater. The sewer facilities module, these are increases to our sewer flows at the water treatment plant, but operate under a very different state act than the stormwater. So I guess in strict terms, there may be some kind of increase in the sewer flows, but I think oftentimes that's mitigated by the stormwater controls that are put in on site. I don't have an exact breakdown of what those numbers are, since this location, both locations that we're discussing tonight are within the combined sewer area of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. Are there any other questions from the committee, from council? Questions from the public? Going once, twice. It's gone.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. All right, everyone. That brings us to the end of our legislative agenda. And it brings us to our second public comment period, which is reserved for items not previously addressed in public comment and not on the agenda. The rules are, as usual, begin with your name and your place of residence. Keep your comments civil and please keep them to 3 minutes or less. Surprise, surprise. Ms. Strazo, please add Mr. Dastra to the meeting.
All right, Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. These public comments are related to the progress happening in the city, especially as I'm trying to go to as many meetings as I humanly possibly can, especially utilizing the infrastructure we've been using since COVID. I grew a concern at the last Planning Commission meeting, which is when people discuss affordable housing, which I don't blame anybody for. It's how we discuss affordable housing. We talk about affordable housing being a percentage of income, and then we also add on these facts like a percentage of median average income, for example. I get very concerned when we talk about projects in isolation and their plans in isolation from one another, because the city is growing in all different places. And if we're going to say one day that a project's affordability is, I'm throwing a number out here not to put anybody in the fire, but just to use an example. If we're going to say an affordable rental unit for a 1-bedroom might hit $600. In the current situation, in the current settings, that's valid. But if we're not considering the progress or the redevelopment or development of the city as a whole and how those might fluctuate values greatly, suddenly that $600 value for an affordable apartment may become much, much higher, especially using a number like an average, where we've explicitly been communicated this, we're trying to draw higher income residents to the city. That will push the average up, and that's immensely concerning. We need to figure out how to bring everybody up together and not just introduce a level of income, a new level of income to the city that pushes the averages up. And then suddenly the projects we were all talking about, which are, and not right now, but in a larger span of time, all those projects suddenly are less affordable because we've moved way too fast and there's literally no way for people to catch up. I am going to keep speaking about this sort of issue because I think if we are going to talk about averages as the metric of data and being a data-driven society, we need to also recognize that data has its flaws. And if we look at things through one lens consistently, for example, an average, a median at that, we could be putting many of our citizens in harm's way. Thank you all for your time this evening and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra. Are there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, we now move to the report of the mayor. Mayor Sirachi.
Evening, council. Thank you. Pull up my report. So as our country faces the death of Dante Wright at the hands of police in Minnesota, just 10 miles from the courtroom where a former police officer is on trial for the murder of George Floyd, I think it's appropriate that tonight we are discussing both public safety and public health. Chief Bay shared the efforts of the Lancaster City Bureau has made in the last several months, and this is certainly an ongoing process, evolving policy, practice, and culture in an institution that's more than 150 years old, while seeking the highest standards in delivering public safety services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Mr. Dreisbach shared pilot efforts around crisis response in partnership with the police departments here in Lancaster City and across the county. These efforts are essential to protect our most vulnerable residents and support our officers with what they've asked for, trained, experienced counselors who are equipped to meet those who are in crisis beyond what our individual officers can provide. So it's an imperative that we track these calls for crisis intervention and the outcomes from this new approach, and then leverage these data and outcomes to ensure that there is a countywide implementation and that there is a permanent and expanded crisis intervention response. And I look forward to partnering with council as we move those efforts ahead. Also tonight, I want to recognize that Lancaster City Council has added its voice to the chorus, calling for a public health department. While COVID-19 and the sickness and death that continues to be left in its wake has become the primary focal point of this discussion, I'd like to offer a few comments, and that is, I'd like to offer a return to the key underpinning of this conversation, and that is the word public. Public means the whole, as in the whole of our community, every block, street, road, route, and zip code. Whether you live in a city, the borough, or a township, certainly we understand now more than ever that the public health has great consequence to our communities wherever you live and whoever you are. Right now, there is not a single entity in Lancaster County with the expertise to plan, guide, and lead efforts that encompass the whole of the public as it relates to our collective health. Instead, what we have is a group of healthcare providers, nonprofit entities, and government who from time to time join together to solve issues of import. We've become really good at coalitions, including Live Well Lancaster County, joining forces, Let's Talk Lancaster, Hungry Free Lancaster County, and Lancaster County-led coalition. And most recently, the Lancaster County COVID-19 Task Force, to name just but a few. To be sure, these coalitions have played an important role in mitigating health crises and improving the quality of life. However, there is no one minding the collective work of these efforts, reviewing progress, tracking data over time, and reporting to the public consistently. In addition, the capacities of these coalitions is limited. There's no doubt that we are fortunate, most fortunate, to have local leadership and healthcare providers that work exceedingly hard to respond to our healthcare needs. And we are lucky, so lucky, to have an accredited level 1 trauma center here in Lancaster County, a state-of-the-art cancer facility, and soon a pediatric hospital in our collective backyards. However, let's be very clear about this. By relying on private entities, we are also outsourcing public health to organizations that are balancing their own organizational priorities, capacities, and finances with the needs of the public. As it relates to the pandemic, Penn Medicine, LGH, as the largest healthcare provider in our community, has taken on considerable responsibility for COVID response by planning, providing services, and coordinating efforts, even among its competitors. And very fortunately, because of CARES funding, the county has been able to compensate Penn Medicine, LGH, for the kinds of services that are not reimbursable, for example, contact tracing. The city of Lancaster is extremely grateful for Penn Medicine and LGH leadership during these momentous times, and we are grateful for their ongoing partnership addressing a host of community health concerns in the city beyond the pandemic. Just before COVID struck our community, we were close to completing a feasibility study in partnership with Penn Medicine to launch a health department in the city. The pandemic obviously made it immediately and abundantly clear that a city focus would not meet the need. Nothing less than a county approach would work. You see, even our largest, most involved healthcare provider in our community recognizes the value add of an entity that's focused on the public. So I'd like to be explicit about the value add, and I appreciate council's forbearance, because it is the central part of the conversation community-wide just yet. And that value add is leadership. Number one, all public health requires coordination at the local, state, and national levels, as well as public and private-led efforts. A single entity that can guide the public in making investments to protect and serve the health of everyone, nonpartisan, scientifically sound, independent, accountable to the public. Think Dr. Fauci, someone who coordinates overall response rooted in science and data for the benefit of the whole. Second, monitoring and reporting. These are essential activities that are glaringly absent. If you want to know where children live who have elevated blood lead levels, those data can't be released to an entity like the city actively working to address lead poisoning through home repairs. Lancaster County has higher rates of Lyme disease and chickenpox than the state overall, but where these cases are is unknown. COVID monitoring was equally opaque, and while we finally have had data about deaths, positive tests, we still don't have any data specific about vaccination rates by zip code or by census tract, excuse me. Our conversations about crisis intervention dovetail here as well. A public health approach could include monitoring how many community members struggle with mental health issues, if services are available to meet their needs, and what their health outcomes are. If we want to make data-driven decisions, we actually need to have data. And finally, accountability and transparency. We should absolutely expect accountability and transparency to be hallmarks of anything that is public. So again, these are the value add propositions of leadership, monitoring and reporting, accountability and transparency that are critical to public health conversation. At best, our current efforts are fragmented, unduly influenced by politics, and lacking vision. Let's take note of the emerging support across Lancaster County for a countywide health department. And I appreciate council in joining in this cause together to have a conversation about what's possible with a public health investment for the public good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sirachi. We appreciate it. I do not have a report this evening, which brings us to council comments. Councilors. Okay. Hearing none, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you for sticking with us.